Hey, well, this is Zacchaeus with another live word of the day. God bless, God bless, God bless. God bless you if you're tuning in for the first time. And if you're tuning in for the first time, God bless you. If you've been consistently supporting me, I thank you as well. Well, today I want to share Samson and Delilah, the story of Samson and Delilah, and give you my today's input on Samson and Delilah, and how God, from birth, God chosen Samson to be the defenders of the people, the Hebrew people, and he fought against the Philistines. And since from birth, God came to his mother and told him and gave him the gift of strength and told him that his secret to his strength is his hair, and he may and that's his strength, and he may never cut his hair because that's his strength. And as he came, as time went on, Samson had a wife, married a woman, had a wife, and when he had this wife in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, Philistine woman had a wife, but the Philistines seen how Samson spoke up against the Philistine empire, and Philistines didn't like that. So what they did is what they went when they distracted Samson, and Samson was distracted by some of the Philistine people, and he was distracted. So what they did, as Samson went away from his home, the Philistines came and they burned his home down to the ground with his wife. They burned it down to the ground with his wife, and his wife died in the flames. So Samson got angry, and when Samson got angry, he lost control, and he got angry because he killed his wife in the flames. And they tried to arrest Samson. When they arrested Samson, Samson got angry, and God gave him the power and strength, and he took some wood, like a 4x4 wood, and he just slew as many Philistines as he possibly can for killing his wife in the flames. And when he did this, they bounded him up in chains. And God asked, and Samson prayed to the Lord to give him strength. But even before then, as a beast came to Samson, Samson would slew the angry beast. Just like today, y'all, God gives you strength. And when he gives you strength to stand up against our enemies, he does. He gives us strength to stand up against whoever's coming against you. God gives you the power and the strength to come against you. But you know what Samson's weakness was? Women. He was just attracted to, and it's normal for us to be attracted to women, just attracted to the Philistine women. They were like forbidden fruit. And the devil knows how to tempt us, men. He knows that the devil knows what we like. Satan knows what we like. Some of us like the voluptuous curves of a woman. Satan knows that in order to tempt us and to reel us in, to get the flattering lips of a woman to just reel us in. And when he reels us in, oh boy, some of us, we can't control ourselves. We get caught up into the beauty. And we got to be careful, man. We got to be careful that Satan uses these women. He's used some women to lower us in. But if you're praying and you're asking God for guidance, he'll speak to you. But as Samson, going back to the story of Samson, that Samson was always defending himself against the Philistines. Because in the book of Judges, the Philistines always went against God's people and wanted to belittle God's people and rule over God's people and tell them who they can worship and who not worship. But God had used Samson in a mighty way. And as the Philistine army got to hurt God's people, the Philistines had to hurt God's people and consistently bring them to shame and consistently have power over them and threaten them and belittle them and put them down and intimidate them. God used Samson to defeat them. And as the Philistines, the Hebrews were getting intimidated by Samson, God used Samson to pick up a bone of an ass. And when the Philistine army came to fight Samson, he slew every one of them. He slew every one of a lot of the Philistine army. Just one man, Samson. He slew them with the bone of an ass. And my gosh. So one day, maybe a year later, months and a year later, and Samson's mother warned him to stay away from the Philistine women. One of the leaders of the Philistine army chose Delilah to lure Samson in. Now one day, Samson was walking. He was walking and he bumped into Delilah. Boy, he was dumbfounded by her beauty. Dumbfounded by her beauty and the way how she looked. And as Samson was dumbfounded by her beauty, and as he was dumbfounded by her beauty, with her flattering lips, she wooed him and they got along, spoke well, and Samson loved spending time with Delilah. And then one day, one of the Philistine leaders noticed that Samson was talking to Delilah. So what they did was they grabbed Delilah. And as they grabbed Delilah, they spoke to Delilah and said, "We'll pay you all the silver. We'll give you all this." Well, in those days it was silver. Those days was worth a lot of money. And I give you all this money if you could just lower Samson in. So you know what she did? She needed the money. She took the money. And as she took that money, she allowed Samson to rest his head on her lap. And as he rests his head on her lap, they made love. And as they made love, Samson fell asleep. And as Samson fell asleep, Samson woke up and then she noticed Delilah staring at him. You know what Delilah asked him? What gives you that strength? What gives you that strength? Samson wasn't going to tell her, but he was so dumbfounded by her beauty. So in awe with her beauty, just feeling her beautiful curves and kissing those soft, lovely lips, that couldn't help it. He couldn't help himself. And he gave away his strength. Now God warned Samson not to tell anybody his strength. But he disobeyed God and he told Delilah anyway. And as he told Delilah his strength, which is his hair, his locks, Samson fell asleep under the bosom of Delilah, laying in bed. So as Delilah decided to cut his locks one by one, cut his locks, and the evil Philistine people were waiting for the signal, for Delilah to give them a signal. As they knocked on the door and pushed the door open, Delilah showed the Philistines all his locks that was cut off his head. And as a Philistine, as Samson woke up, he touched his head. All his locks were cut off his head. And he looked at Delilah, yelling at her, "What did you do? What did you do?" It was too late. Samson lost his strength. And one of the Philistine leaders walked up to Samson and told Samson, "Look at Delilah, for this is the last beautiful woman or beautiful sight that you'll ever see in your life." And he gouged out Samson's eyes with his own fingers. Since Samson became blind because one of the Philistine soldiers, the leader, head of the Philistine soldiers, gouged out his eyes, caused him to be blind. And they threw Samson in prison. And Delilah, all she could say is, I'm sorry, Samson. I'm sorry, Samson." And as Samson cried out to the Lord, he said, "Lord, forgive me. I've sinned against you. God, forgive me. I've sinned against you." And as he cried out to the Lord, the Philistines had a feast, and they brought Samson to make mockery into the palace where all the Philistines stayed. Soldiers, men, women, and children, Philistine. And God told the little boy, Samson grabbed a young man, and the young man led, and they put Samson, they chained him up, and the little boy, and as they chained him up, they just stood Samson up in front of the palace, in front of two pillars, and the little boy came to Samson, and Samson grabbed the little boy, and the little boy led him to the pillars where the two heaviest pillars were in the palace. And the little boy left Samson's presence. As they made mockery, the Philistines laughed and made mockery of Samson. Samson whispered to the God and said, "God, give me your strength one more time." And as Samson was blind, God granted Samson strength one more time. And Samson was able to push the pillars with his bare hands from to the right hand side and to the left hand side. He pushed the pillars down, and the pillars began to shake. And as the pillars began to shake, the ceiling began to shake, and everything came falling down, crushing every Philistine in the building, killing the Philistines. Every last one of them in the building. Samson died that night with Delilah. And this reminds me of a story that I've seen, and it happens to young men. Did you know many young men out there died? Men died because a woman set them up. with her flattery lips. Do you know how much men are buried 6 feet under? 6 feet under because they was wooed and they were set up by a woman. Set up, set up, set up, lined up, and set up. Whole lot of women, and a whole lot of men are buried today. I remember one story of two young men they just met two young women. Two young women happened a few years ago, and I guess the young men want to meet them, hang out with them, meet them, exchange information, like social media information. And the two young men met up with the women that night, but that same night cost them their life. And what happened is when they met those two young women, those two young women already have boyfriends, and those boyfriends, they meant to rob them. They met them in a great deep alley, actually not an alley, a dark street. And one of the young men that was killed that night was looking around, and he said to his other friend, "They don't look safe." But what happened was it was just too late. Those two girls that set them up to get killed, their boyfriends came out the car with guns. They didn't shoot them, but they beat them to death with guns, causing one to lose his life. They beat them to death. They laid on the street. They laid on the street bleeding. That one couldn't make it. One lost his life. I shared that story because you have to be careful of who you meet. People are meeting online today. A lot of people are lining up and dating people online and trying to hook up with people online today. You can't trust everything. And sometimes you gotta seek God and say, "Lord, I don't know if this, I just leave it in your hands. If I'm to meet somebody, I leave it in your hands." Because not everyone that you meet is genuine. Not everyone that you meet is like they have the best interests at heart or genuine in meeting you. This goes for the women and men, but this is particularly for the men that are single, that are always on the dating sites, and is just itching and dying to meet somebody to hook up with, or want to meet a young lady or meet a woman. Be careful. Seek God. Pray that you're safe, and always meet in a crowded area. Don't always meet. Try not to meet somebody, meet them in their home, meet them in front of their house, or meet them in a crowded area, like a restaurant or a diner, which is not too expensive. Some diners are not too expensive. But don't meet them in a secluded area where just you and her. Because you never know when you're going to be lined up. You never know when you're going to be set up. And because you meet them, you never know. If you meet them always meet in a area where where it's heavily populated, or where it's populated, where there's people around. Never meet somebody in an alley that you say gonna meet them in let's say, for example, I live in New York City. I meet you on a quiet area in Central Park, or I meet you in a quiet area in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York. Those who live in that area. Or I meet you in a quiet area in so-and-so park. Always meet in a pretty much populated area. Or meet during the day when there's people around. Never meet so late at night. If you can meet late at night, meet in a Starbucks or meet in a diner. Never agree to meet in a secluded area or a quiet, nighty area where there's no one too much around. You never know. We're living in, ladies and gentlemen, we're living in some crazy, evil, wicked times, and you never know what people have up your sleeves. And I know us men, that we get carried away with how she looks and just her curve. Satan knows what we like, and Satan will send that very thing to trap you. That very woman to trap you with the Bible talks about women with flattery lips, and that very woman that will keep you trapped. So be always praying and seeking God to find that right one. You'll know if you're praying every day and you have that prayer closet, you'll know. But you wouldn't know because you don't pray and you don't ask God for direction. So always use wisdom when you meet somebody. Always. And Samson, going back to the story of Samson died that night. Once again, he died. I said it again, he died with the rest of the Philistines, but it's a story Samson and Delilah is a story to teach you and warn you. When God give you something, don't be so quick to share it and give it away. God gave Samson his strength in his hair. Never give people your gems all the time, because your gems and your gifts is meant to share with the world, yes, but your deepest secrets, and not your deepest secret, the goals that God has for you and set for you, is not meant to be shared with everyone. And be careful where you go. Be careful how you're meeting people. And I think that's a message I'm trying to bring home too. And also, if God's giving you something, remember, your precious pearls are not meant to be shared with every swine. But this is the story of Samson and Delilah. Well, this is Zacchaeus coming to you with another live word of the day. God bless, and thanks for tuning in, and be safe out there. And if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, Zacchaeus Gospel. Also give me the thumbs up. I really would appreciate that too as well. Thank you, and God bless. Peace and blessings, y'all.